play off a little bit about what Danik is talking about here and kind of one really, really small area of climate change adaptation that I'm studying. Typically, shoreline management, 99.9% of the time in Nova Scotia is done through what we call engineered or hardened approaches, which usually look like this. Pretty typical scenario for Nova Scotia. You've got your beautiful lawn, a whole bunch of rock, open water. The purpose of this, protect your lawn, stop a little bit of erosion, protect coastal roads, infrastructure, buildings, all usually from wave energy. Does it work? Yes, it does. But it's not without its problems. It is costly, it requires a significant amount of maintenance, it can be destroyed quite as easily in storms. I wouldn't say destroys critical coastal habitat, but it changes the habitat. And it has a really tough time keeping up with climate change. We see more and more as storms come up the eastern seaboard, this type of destruction with our hardened structures. So there's a newer alternative to hardened structures with the umbrella group called natural shoreline management. This is taking natural coastal ecosystems and enhancing their resilience in order to be able to, I wouldn't say protect our coastline, but protect the infrastructure, increase habitat, and increase the resilience of our coasts. These include things like salt marsh restoration and creation, and what I'm going to talk about today, which is living shorelines. This is your stereotypical view of a living shoreline. Really what it is a bunch of vegetation and natural materials on the coast that work with coastal processes to enhance ecosystems' abilities to protect itself. You have a lot of work in the upland zone, which I think I have a here. I don't know how to use this. Oops, not that button. Not that button. That button. There we go. All right, so we've got our, okay, so I'm gonna use the mouse. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Y'all can see my mouse here? Okay, so we have our upland coastal zone. How we work with this system is we plant vegetation which helps to mitigate some of the erosion coming from upland factors, so things like rain runoff, stormwater runoff, helps to compact soil and keep sort of everything from eroding within this zone. And then we have where I work in, which is the intertidal zone. Similar concept, add a lot of vegetation, helps to stop some wave energy from hitting the coast, impacts soil, creates habitat, and then you can also work in subtidal waters or sort of underwater with submerged aquatic vegetation, things like eelgrass and seaweed. And you can also use structural materials in these ecosystems as well. What we have here as an example is a living breakwater, which is great, generally made out of oysters, so adds an element of sort of oyster habitat as well. We have done these in Nova Scotia. The Ecology Action Center has done 4, I've done 2. This is one of my sites at Eskimos First Nations that was installed with ACAP Cape Breton last year. So what we had here was a person's lawn, about a 5-foot bank, and then open water. So what was happening is every time during a storm, there was completely getting eroded over and over again from both upland runoff as well as wave impact. So what we did was added all this vegetation that you see along here, as well as a little bit of hay, which is the brown that you see, and intertidal vegetation closer to the water line. So this is a very, very low tide, so you can sort of see the whole site. So what this is going to do for the site is it stops the water running off of the guy's backyard down the slope, stops the erosion from there, as well as stops some of the erosion from wave impact. And I say some of the erosion because we don't stop all of the erosion. That's a really, really important point. If you stop erosion, that's a really bad thing. We don't want to do that. It's what feeds our beaches. This is another really great example of a photo I took in Maryland. Maryland is one of the leaders in living shorelines. This is a very typical sort of small site, private property living shoreline. What we have here is about a 6-foot tall cliff. It was eroding from wave impact again. So what they did here is they vegetated the cliff, which you can't really see right now because this photo was taken in December, as well as a nice planted marsh. So they infilled a whole bunch of sediment, planted in a marsh, and then they added a structural material here, which is a sill, which is a low-lying rock structure that is generally underwater at high tide. So what eventually is going to happen is that vegetation overtakes the rock, and you're left with a nice vegetated marsh. Same concept, pretty much exactly the same methods as I just described, but a little bit different on the site. So the good news around this is that we have sort of this natural alternative now to hardened structures. It helps us to increase coastal habitat, increase intertidal habitat, provides nurseries for fish, provides usability of the coast. You know, a rock structure doesn't exactly allow you to use your shoreline, but a living shoreline does. It has a multitude of economic and ecosystem services and benefits, and generally is more resilient to coastal climate change impacts than a rock system. It allows the coast to fluctuate, it allows it to move, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna stop talking. But yeah, plant things, not rocks.